YouTube, this is Hand of Nergal again, making another video response, this time in response to a video titled 10 Questions Every Atheist Must Answer. Before I begin, I would like to say that I take issue with the way that you pose a question and the way that the title was phrased. Your questions have some relevance to atheists. However, they include different topics such as evolution, cosmology, ethics, and so on. I hope that you realize that the average atheist might not necessarily be properly equipped to answer all of these questions, as they would be required to be familiar with a broad range of topics. Not only that, the questions themselves, the way they are posed and the way that I or another atheist might answer them, may bear little relevance to atheism itself, as it is neither a scientific theory or a religious dogma. Also bear in mind that based on the way that you pose the questions, there are not only atheists that might find some of the questions objectionable. For example, not all creationists are young earth creationists, and not all Christians find evolution objectionable. This fact once again shows that your questions have little relevance to atheism itself.
Here are 10 questions that I feel an atheist needs to answer if they're going to be consistent in what they believe.
I strongly object to the idea that an atheist, or anyone, ever needs to justify their position, their beliefs, their standpoints, their opinions, and so on. In the United States of America, we have something called the freedom of speech, and also the freedom for and from religion. Therefore, I will never ask a Christian to defend their faith.
In doing so, if you wish to respond, please respond by dealing with arguments. Don't attack people and just try to discredit people because you don't want what they have to say to be heard by other people.
I will make no attempt to attack you personally, sir. However, incidentally, I will attempt to discredit your position by pointing out how ridiculous your questions are. If you do not want to hear my answers, you should not have asked the questions. I am not here to please you or make you feel comfortable.
Question number 1. If there is no God, why is there anything at all? This is another angle on where did the universe come from without a creator. If you want to say, well, the Big Bang, great. I go for Big Bang. But God lit the fuse. God set it all in motion.
For the first question, you have committed a logical fallacy by assuming that anything should exist. I could very easily say that nothing should exist, and logically that would be no more fallible or infallible. Your standpoint is that God created the universe and all things for a purpose. My position is that there is no almighty being, and that it was not created, the universe that is, that therefore there is no purpose. You briefly mentioned the Big Bang. I'd go for a Big Bang as well. However, you committed a logical fallacy by assuming that it needed to have a beginning or a beginner. Because the Big Bang theory does not coincide with your theory of a creator or an all-powerful God, it does not discredit the theory of the Big Bang itself. In the same way that because the Big Bang theory cannot predict what happened before the Big Bang, because by definition the universe did not exist before it, it does not discredit the theory.
Second question. Where is the evidence that life could have begun without intelligent interference? How can matter existing and moving randomly without any volition, without any will or anything else, become what's necessary for life and then become alive?
I would like you to look up abiogenesis and chemical evolution, the Miller-Urey experiment, and so on and so forth. Now that you've been told, you can no longer claim ignorance of it. The research has been done.
Question 3. How can evolution explain features of irreducible complexity apart from intelligent intervention? And what I'm talking about is features that we see in creatures today, such as wings.
I recommend that you read On the Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. He devotes an entire chapter to transitional forms. Irreducible complexity has been debunked and proven to be not a valid scientific theory. So yeah, um, the whole thing with the transitional or partially functional wing has been disproven.
Question 4. How can the evolutionary model be true since the fossil record clearly shows most major groups emerging at the same time? I'd like you to Google Cambrian explosion and see what I'm talking about there.
The Cambrian period was over 50 million years long. Now, try to get that in context. And also, it was over 500 million years ago. You have to understand that when evolutionary biologists are talking about a relatively short amount of time, what they're really talking about is a very long amount of time, ago in the past. So bear in mind that all of the animals living in the Cambrian period were water-dwelling. So when they say that they're talking about the formation of the major animals as they appear today, they're completely lying, because all the animals have been evolving since then.
This is question 5. If there is no objective standard of right or wrong, which was furnished by the Creator, how can anything be wrong?
You have committed another logical fallacy, sir. I can provide you with examples of moral teachers who require me to believe in no gods. Buddha, Lao Tzu, Confucius are all moral teachers who require a belief in no God. There were also philosophical teachers such as Aristotle and Zeno and Plato and Seneca and so on. The writings of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius contain excellent examples of his version of morality. And there is no mention of God, and if there is a mention of a God or gods, it is completely incidental to what they are teaching. We also have laws, and if you break the laws, you are held accountable. The point I'm getting at is that moral and ethical ideas are universal. They do not have to be endorsed by any kind of all-powerful being. Humans have compassion. Even dogs have a sense of guilt. That's why they put their head down and whine when you yell at them. It's completely subjective to your experience. You cannot give me an example of any kind of religious moral law that could not have secular origins as well, not necessarily consider the Ten Commandments the highest examples of morality. For one, they only have two commandments that really apply to me, and that is don't steal and don't murder. There is no such thing as a universal concept of right and wrong. It is completely subjective. That is the reason why we have to agree upon laws. We have to make a consensus. We have to vote in our leaders. There were many things in the past that were common then that are considered taboo or even morally repugnant today. For example, pederasty. The ancient Greeks used to have sex with little kids. To them, it was okay. To us, it is not. And then you have things like slavery, which was widely accepted in the past, and stoning people to death, which was apparently endorsed in the Bible. Burning of witches, child labor, human sacrifice, genocide, the list goes on and on. So, also there are many things in the past that were very taboo that have been popularized, such as homosexuality. And I'm not going to argue with you whether you consider it right or wrong. However, I do not feel that someone deserves to be stoned to death because of their sexual orientation. I believe, humbly, I suggest that I have a better sense of morality than the people who wrote the Bible. However, with respect to your question, you asked where I derive my morality, and I'll tell you, I used to be a Christian, a Catholic, so a lot of those teachings have remained with me, and also I read a lot of Eastern philosophy and religious texts such as the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, and so on and so forth, and they have also taught me a great deal.